No, sir, but she'll come. I'll ask her.
Yeah.
So you can start.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you, sir. It's my privilege to welcome you to the 128th episode of the webinar series on Rethinking City that INHAF has been running for the past few years. INHAF, that is Habitat Forum, is a small, not-for-profit civil society organization, a national network of professionals, academics, NGOs, and others working on human settlements development issues. That is what we've been doing for last 30 years. Urbanization, cities, slums, rural and urban affordable and appropriate housing, poverty, climate change, public investment and delivery systems, a role of civil society, and professional education are some of INHAP's areas of current engagement. The title of the webinar today is Development Challenge of Pune. What needs to happen to ensure economically vibrant, livable, people-centric, inclusive, and climate-ready city by 2050. As a matter of fact, as you would see, we have piled up a lot in this particular webinar. We're talking about livable city, vibrant city, people-centric city, inclusive city. And what one is saying is this: if you want our cities as good places to live, good places to work, and prosper in health and joy, we need to aim high. And I like that stated in form of the Canton Declaration. This Canton Declaration is something I've been talking about for the last 25 years, day in, day out, because I was part of it. Canton Declaration of Civil Society Workers, who proclaimed some 25 years ago that a good Asian city is one that is economically productive, socially just, politically participatory, culturally vibrant, environmentally sustainable, technologically adaptive, and people-centric. So these are the 7 or 8 adjectives, we had thought about in terms of what kind of Asian city we should have. And I'm really very happy that it contains everything. To discuss Pune's development challenge, we have a remarkably competent team of panelists, carefully chosen from different walks of life and representing different development sectors. They know Pune or Pune, have a vision for the city, and have ideas as to what plans, actions, investments, and institutions will make the city realize its full potential. They know that the coming 25 years are crucial for the city in choosing its pathways to becoming a spatial place. They're all busy individuals. Let me thank them individually for making time for this event. Thanks, Palshikar Saab, Ramanath Ji Sir, Meher Ji, Vandana Ji, and Anupam Saraph Ji. Believe me, and I can't even believe that Anupam Ji is now in the USA and working from there to moderate this event. So we are deeply grateful to all of you for your time and your assistance. This webinar series is called or titled Rethinking City and is rolling out its 128th episode today. We have by now done 128 episodes. As some of you may know, we have had over 550 experts, professionals, specialists, community groups, and concerned citizens from all over the world presenting their views, perspectives, and solutions on a number of urban themes and sub-themes. We have discussed governance, municipal finance, mobility, climate change, infrastructure, slums, affordable housing, just you name it, and has been kind of dealt with. Because I'm very keen, at least this panel, to know what we're doing, let me share good news that we are unfolding some 20 new webinars in the coming few months. That includes a series of 6 webinars on a very special slum improvement program in Orissa. What is happening in big cities and small towns of Orissa has such potential for adoption and replication in other cities of the country which are facing the slum problem that we have named the series Slums Are Solvable. This is the series we are coming up with in August and September. And to present this series, we have made co-hosting arrangements with United Nations Habitat and Cities Alliance, 2 global institutions promoting better solution to the complex slum issue. The second set of webinars are with CityNet, a 30-year-old association of Asian cities with some 150 members. This webinar series is to focus on the climate change issues and will share what big cities of Asia, such as Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Seoul, Yokohama, and Kathmandu are doing to address the formidable climate change they are faced with. Our cities have much to learn on the climate change phenomenon from these cities, and the webinar series will be a good platform to exchange ideas and build relationships. We've also started a new sub-series called Cities of Maharashtra that covers Pune, Nagpur, Nasik, and Aurangabad. And this webinar is the first of the 4 we have planned. Under cities of Gujarat, we have already covered Ahmedabad and Baroda, and also working on 5 cities of Orissa, 4 cities of West Bengal, and similar number of cities in Tamil Nadu. So we essentially are ready for with what 30 more webinars in the coming 6 months. That said, that is what we're doing now, and I was very keen that you know this. Let me tell you why are we doing this webinars for so long? Why are we putting so much effort? What is the purpose? What are we seeking to do and achieve through this webinar series? And I thought, I know it to it is my responsibility to tell you why we are doing this. Over the past 3-4 years, while introducing 125 webinars INHAF has organized on Rethinking City, I have personally emphasized the following 6 points unfailingly and repeatedly. As a matter of fact, I've been quite boring on this particular part. Number 1, that India's urban challenge is daunting, complex, and demanding. Something that we, as people, as professionals, and government cannot afford mismanaging without paying a big price economically, socially, and environmentally. As the country's future is tied to how our cities function and remain livable, healthy, safe, peaceful, productive, and undestructive of environment, ecology, nature, culture, and of course, values. Number two, the time is not on our side. As pace of urbanization is rapid, governance challenge is formidable, and available response do not seem to work very well. So this is the second point, that we don't have much time, and what we have doesn't seem to work very well. The third point is that the cities are not only places, they are also people. And therefore, good physical infrastructure for better living is only a part answer to a city's development challenge. Cities need to be just, inclusive, compassionate, cultural sensitive, and future promising. We're not happy only with good water and better roads. Fourth, that to expect the government alone to respond to the challenge is unreasonable, and unrealistic. That the human resource capital, and this is the fifth point, and this to me is the very important point, including the knowledge and skill base outside the government system, in business, in industry, in academic community, among professionals and civil society, has the potential to contribute meaningfully to addressing the urban challenge, that we have lots of energy, ability, knowledge outside the government system, and they are willing to kind of contribute. And the sixth point is this: a broad based societal partnership. Societal partnership is the word I emphasize all the time. With government in a key role is the need of the hour to meeting the urban challenge adequately. And therefore, this webinar series is a part of the process to building a wider societal partnership. We're doing this webinar series as a way to building a wider societal partnership. Multiple actions are needed by multiple stakeholders, and this is just one of them. With this long introduction, I'm sorry, I promise that I'll take a little more time. I request Shri Anupam Saraph ji to conduct the conversation. But before he does that, let me introduce him, because he couldn't introduce himself. Dr. Anupam Saraph is a systems thinker and a global authority on future design, governance, innovation, and livability. Anupam Saraph, I never knew you so much. He advises governments, civic leaders, and corporations worldwide on strategies that deliver casual insight, enabling them to thrive in complex systems with clarity, confidence, and effectiveness. His work bridges foresight and implementation. Advancing governance and value creation. With decades of cross-sectoral experience at the intersection of digital transformation, sustainability, and institutional design, Dr. Saraf is a leading voice in reimagining how cities can not only function but flourish, becoming oases of livability on a planet which is facing persistent global challenges. Thank you. Sir Saraf Saab, this is all yours now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kirtiji, for your kind words. And I'm indeed honored to be here with a very distinguished panel. Many of you I have known for many years, and I've seen your remarkable work and passion with which you have tried to transform the city of Pune. I've been fortunate in my life to live in many different cities, see even more different cities across the world. And it always struck me about what makes these cities very different. Almost no two cities are the same. And often while we think about making Pune into a Singapore or a Hong Kong or whatever else may be the latest thing, it always strikes me that every city has a unique vibe, a unique, feeling that you get when you are there. Many cities which try to transform themselves have actually tried to become like other cities. And in doing so, they have often lost the character that they have had. And so I always wonder as I go about in these cities, what is it that is a transforming part in terms of how these cities change? It reminded me somewhere about the work that Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman did about slow and fast thinking. So he talks about fast thinking, where it's more gut feeling, intuitive, rapid, quick decisions, where, and we do it a lot of the times, it helps us to go through our daily needs very easily. And then there is slow thinking. And slow thinking is more reflective, where there is deep thought and deliberate action. And so when we do this deliberate action, we are actually looking at the different options available to us and shaping whatever we shape. So as we go about living our lives, we do both slow thinking and fast thinking. But in some places, you see there is a lot more of slow thinking, and other places there's a lot more of fast thinking. And so when you reflect a bit, you realize it's our environment that shapes whether we do slow thinking or fast thinking, or what combination of it we actually use. And it's our environment in terms of the colleagues that we surround ourselves with, the rules that we make, the governance structures that we build. They all decide whether we are capable of slow thinking or fast thinking. And increasingly, I think it's also our cities that we live in which decide whether we are able to do slow thinking or fast thinking. And in some ways, when we set out to shape the cities and talk about how we want to develop them, we forget that the cities are also shaping us. They're shaping who we become. They're shaping how we think, and they're shaping how we make decisions, whether we are slow thinkers or whether we are fast thinkers. We also forget that the city shapes our values. It shapes what we come to value, whether we value dignity, care, compassion, livability, all depends on whether we are slow thinking or fast thinking. It depends on how the city has itself shaped us, what pressures have shaped us. It also changes the way in which we think about how change comes to be. And one of the fundamental things that differentiates fast thinking and slow thinking is what shapes our theories of change, how change happens in a city, how change happens in our environment is shaped very much by our fast thinking or slow thinking. When you are fast thinking, our cause-effect understanding is very different. What causes what effects is very different from when we are going to do slow thinking. And so therefore, it's the kind of city or the kind of environment that we are going to shape is going to be very different depending on how we think. And I think there is no one better than today's panel to talk about how this is really shaping the way in which Pune has emerged. Because a lot of us have lived across many decades and seen Pune transform itself. I think what all of you are going to say is going to leave a mark and resonate for many years to come, and it's going to guide and shape those who are running the city, who are shaping the city, who are living in the city. It's going to inspire them and empower them to really think about how they want to see the next 25 years of Pune. And so I think it's great responsibility that we all have in terms of how we carry our wisdom and our learnings to our audience, which is far and wide, not just in Pune, but I'm sure there are people from all over who look at all of us to talk about how they can learn from our understandings about how the city gets shaped. So I'm going to briefly introduce all our panelists today. They are all distinguished. They are all known to everybody in Pune, so they don't need much introduction. So I'm going to be very brief because I want to leave more time for them to talk and really respond to the challenge that we have today. So the first person I want to talk about is Professor Suhas Palshikar. He's probably the one who has seen Pune transform the most amongst all of us here today. And I'm sure he brings a lot of memories of the early Pune, maybe with tongas and, big banyan trees on every road and, a small little town.
No, Anupam, I'm not that ancient. I haven't seen tongas.
So he is a political scientist and he has inspired a lot of political thinking in not just in Pune but elsewhere. He co-directs Lokniti and CSDS in Delhi, and he has written extensively in English and Marathi on contemporary politics, and he edits a lot of political journals. Then we have Dr. Ramanath Jha, who many of you might remember was the municipal commissioner of Pune in the 90s, transforming and leading a lot of change in Pune. I had good occasion to work with him during the period when he was the municipal commissioner. He was the one who spotted me and my then colleague Raja Bellare and asked us to do some interesting things for Pune, which were, I think, quite path-breaking. So he was a visionary. He and Vandana Chavan was the mayor at that time. So I think the two of them were very much responsible in terms of forward thinking and looking at what could happen to Pune. Ramanath Jha ji is also a fellow now at the Observer Research Foundation. He works on urbanization, urban sustainability, urban governance, and urban planning. He has held numerous positions in government and also spent a significant amount of time in the private sector. And many of you may know that he set up the Khade Economic Infrastructure Private Limited, where he served as the CEO and managing director after his government stint. Then we have Vandana Chavan, who I think people in Pune know as perhaps the most people-friendly people's representative that they have ever had in Pune. So right from the time that she was a councillor in the Pune Municipal Corporation, right from 1992 to the time that she is now a member of parliament, She has seen every level of governance. And so I think she brings insight into what kind of slow or fast thinking happens at all these three different levels, and what are the challenges to get all the governance structures to really do some kind of slow thinking. So then we have Meher Pudumjee, who is the chairperson of Thermax, which is, as all of Puneites know, is Pune's leading company, bringing a lot of prosperity to Pune, contributing to the economy. It's a company focused on providing energy and environment solutions. And for a long time, it has been central in terms of making Pune accelerate towards its economic boom. So Meher Pudumjee is a chemical engineer from Imperial College of Science and Technology. She has a lot of passion in terms of contributing back to society, and she has been involved with a lot of initiatives in CSR, as well as ensuring that Pune is shaped to ensure that its economy can thrive and ensure that its citizens have the ability to be in a livable city. So we were going to have Mr. Yogesh Mhase, who was going to join us. I don't know if he will join us after his meeting with the Chief Minister today. So he is the Commissioner of PMRDA, and I'm hopeful that he will join us sometime during the panel so that he can talk about the larger expanse of Pune beyond the city of Pune. So with that, I would want to turn over to each of my panelists. First, I'm going to ask them to have 5 minutes of reflection. And I want them to actually start off by setting stage for today's deliberations. So I want them to really start off by giving their viewpoint about Pune's development, but I want them to root that in what does Pune mean for them and why is it home. I want them to share how they grew up or came to be in this city. I want them to talk about what they miss most about Pune and as they knew it, and what they believe must fundamentally change in the next 25 years if we were to think about Pune's development. So I'm going to start off by giving the floor to Professor Suhas Palshikar. You have your 5 minutes to tell us about how you came to be in Pune.
Thank you, Anupam bhai. Thank you, Kirti ji and INHAF for bringing us together. In fitness of things, as I speak in this webinar, there is a power cut. My machine or my internet may conk off any moment. So let me quickly have my say before that happens. And that, in a sense, speaks about the state of affairs in the city of Pune. It was mentioned that I might have seen Tongas, but no. I came here as a student when, for example, the Ganesh Khind proper was being broken and the Senapati Bapat road was being sort of widened into what it is today. From that time on, and one can go back in history, in a sense, even after the Panshet 1961 catastrophe, much of the inner city, in a sense, retained its core. And whatever expansion happened, it started happening on the so-called outskirts. Today's SNDT college, for example, or today's university, Savitribai Phule, it was then known as University of Pune, were the outposts, so to say, literally the outposts of the city. As I was studying in Pune, Kothurud was beginning to grow. And from that point of time, one sees that while Aranyeshwar or Katraj were far off places that time, today they are very much part of the city. But that's not the point. I don't want to dwell upon the geographical expansion of the city, about which probably many of those who know Pune are conversant with. The real point is that as each part of the city sort of amalgamated its neighboring parts, the local landlords from those parts started becoming politically important in the city, and thus their landed interests in those parts started intervening in the planning and implementation of cities' governance. That's really the point in how politics came to shape in the city after 1980s. The second point I would like to make is not about Pune city really, nor about myself either, but being a student of social sciences, I can't resist the temptation of generalizing. And I thought that let us not lament on what has happened to Pune, because that is more or less what is happening to most of the cities in India. In one sentence, one could perhaps say that most cities in the country are not only ungovernable, but ungoverned. They are left to fend for themselves. Neither the politicians govern those cities, nor the bureaucrats govern those cities, nor the industrial business elites govern or control those cities. In a sense, it's a three-act tragedy, I would say, as far as our urbanization is concerned in India. The first act is made up of why do you come to Pune and why do you come to cities? In a sense, the development model forces people to move to cities and big cities. They become fat. They start bursting at the seams. That is because there is nothing in the rural areas. Small towns and small cities don't grow, are not allowed to grow perhaps. And as a result of that, big cities become even bigger and more ungovernable. Once this first act of the tragedy is set, the second act sets in, which is that in almost every city, the so-called middle classes, the upper half of the society, starts looking at the city in a myopic fashion, that it is their city. The words that Kirtiji was using in his introduction would sound alien to them. The words like inclusive, just, fair, these are just meaningless words as far as the interests of this upper half of the society is concerned, and they are voluble, they are vocal, as a result of which the so-called interests of Pune, the so-called interests of any city are, or they often get represented by their ideas of what a city should look like. The allusions, Anupam Bhai, to Singapore, Hong Kong, etc., come from there rather than from the politicians. Yes, politicians can be blamed for that, but the imagination actually comes from the middle classes who probably in the late 20th century started moving to cities of the globe and thought that they should ape those cities in India. And it is this middle class sentimentality which dominates the second act of the tragedy. And then the third act sets in, which is that there is an all-round collusion of everything wrong that is wrong with politics, everything that is wrong with the bureaucracy, and everything wrong that which is with the business elite. In this collusion, in a sense, we get all predatory practices. Specific examples, and then I will stop at this introductory point, but they should be adequately provocative. Look at the way in which Pune's so-called International Convention Center has been imagined. That in a way tells you about how an international convention center should not be and where it should not be located. It is located and it is designed in such a fashion that no convention happens there, though there I am told there are a few convention halls, but even the G20 meetings were held outside this convention center. One would have imagined that the G20 like event would have happened there. So that's one example of this kind of collusion and lack of imagination, or a kind of minimalist imagination that happens. We talk of participatory cities, but this idea of a lopsided citizenship afflicts Pune's imagination. One of your questions, for example, was what is that makes Pune's identity? And that sometimes foxes me, because Pune, classically, even traditionally, was a city of the so-called middle-class migrants from different parts of the state and also different parts of the country. But because of that, there seems to be a sense of entitlement among these middle class people, upper caste middle class people, I should say. There seems to be a sense of entitlement. And as the city grows and grows into something like 4 million probably today, then there is a sense of loss, because this class then believes that it loses what it is entitled to. It is this mismatch between imagination and people on the one hand, and the mismatch between the expectations of the entitled class and the confusions that happen on the roads of Pune, that in a sense represent what Pune today is. Thank you.
Terrific. Anupam Saraph, you're muted. You're muted, Anupamji.
Thank you so much. You've left a lot of impressions about what we need to think about. Let's turn our attention to Ramanath Jha. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how Pune is home to you.
Well, I came to Pune, firstly, thanks to Kirtibai, and hello to all our panelists and all the listeners who have joined us in this webinar. I came to Pune in 1994 on posting. So I was not a willing entrant into Pune from that sense. I was supposed to work here, so I came here. And after a few months of working in the warehousing corporation, I was posted to Pune Municipal Corporation, where I worked for 3 years in the municipal body. They were some of my most fruitful years, very engaging, extremely tough. So I had to work quite hard. And I continued to live here from the point of view of my children's education, because they were in critical years of education, and I couldn't move out. And having lived here, developed friends, known places, and having affinity to those places which grew over time, I have continued to live here. Although I have gone out to work, I have worked for long in Delhi, in Mumbai, and in other places. I have been coming back to Pune whenever I get time, and I continue to live here, despite what Mr. Palshikar has described is not a very flattering scenario. And as far as his observations are concerned, I would second many of them, because they are a correct assessment of people who lived here in their younger days and who feel what the city has become today is in the direction in which he pointed out. The subject of today's discussion, of course, is, I would say, it has very formidable words within the topic. It says how to make it economically vibrant, livable, inclusive, and climate to be. But many times in our current scheme of things, they appear to have become very utopian, although they could actually happen. But in the current scheme of things, they look utopian. Now, every city has some challenges that are specific to the local situation. Pune has its own set of local issues that demand local solutions. For instance, recently government has appointed a committee which is specific to Pune in regard to its hilltop, hill slope zone and its BDP, in which Madam Chauhan has been very deeply interested, and she has been batting for the BDP to be protected in its pristine purity, and rightfully so. So that solution has to be found locally. Things like solid waste management, a number of local solutions. However, in the overall context of larger cities in India, and I would say Pune is a very large city, many of the problems are either national or they are state centric. And their impact is very deep, and many of these problems cannot be solved. They are not solvable, they are beyond the resolution of a single city. And they have to be taken care of in terms of policies and reforms that ought to set in terms of urbanization. So they lie in urban governance, in the area of urban planning, in the area of urban finance. And because of their sweeping influence on the large cities, I would like to dwell upon them very briefly. If we talk of Pune's economy, Pune is the eighth largest city and it has the eighth largest economy among cities. It has a state GDP of around $69 billion. It contributes 12% to the state's GDP and around 1.6% to the country's GDP, much beyond the population numbers that it has. It has traditionally been famous for its automobile industry, but it has now become a hub of manufacturing and IT as well. It's rich in research institutes, in universities, and in colleges. And it is also emerging as a startup hub. So I would say in the economic rise of the country, Pune has played a very pivotal role, and it is destined to continue to play that role. And so it is an economically vibrant city. Most of our large cities in the Indian context are economically vibrant. Pune's demography, when it was formed, was about less than 1 million. Now, Pune, Pimpri, Chinchwad, the three cantonment cities, all are more or less a single geographical piece. And their population is projected to reach about 13.3 million by 2025. That is the current year. So it would be about 1% of the national population. And this would happen through geographical expansion into peri-urban areas. Villages continue to merge, and it will continue to densify through migration, which is one of the main ways in which a city grows. Now, given this background of the growing economy and the demography, Pune will have a lot of challenges before it. And these are already there, but they will continue to become larger challenges. I'm not listing them in order, but in terms of their overall importance to the city. One is traffic congestion. Pune is already one of the most congested cities in the world. Bangalore and Pune figure right at the top in global indices that get drawn by traffic companies. And it is a problem that is faced every day by people who go from home to work. We are doing a lot of work on public transport. The metro is coming up in the city, but the bus system, especially the BRT, has more or less collapsed. The metro is, of course, a much larger public transit system, and it should be able to help reduce the traffic congestion to a certain extent. But given the inflow of vehicles, road paucity in the city, and the inability of the city roads to expand in any major manner, public in the general experience of all large cities over the world. London has one of the best transport arrangements in the entire world, and still always figures at the very top of traffic congestion surveys that happen. Its waste management also is not in good shape, and it's struggling to find a management site outside the city. So how to modernize waste management is a huge issue that the city will have to contend with. Climate change, as the topic itself suggests, is a major thing that is impacting most cities, especially the larger ones. In Pune, floods are affecting incrementally more and more areas. Summers are getting hotter, and urban heat island effect is getting worse in many parts of the city. Managing cities are getting weaker because city governments are becoming financially very weak. Their capacity is becoming poorer, and this is manifest in various ways. And one of the things that I read in the papers today is the inability to control unauthorized construction in the city. This is not peculiar to Pune. It is a problem all over the large cities of this country. I was reading the crime report, which comes out every year by the National Crime Bureau, and cities, in summary, they said that the larger cities, the metropolitan cities, are about 8% of the national population, but have about 16% of the crime. Housing is becoming less and less affordable, and more Punekars will find buying houses or renting houses more difficult than it was earlier. And it is, according to me, in the nature of big cities that they become anti-poor as they grow larger, for the simple reason that the city costs go up, the land costs go up, and the poor find it extremely difficult to live in a prosperous city because of the nature in which it grows. Inclusivity, again, is a difficult word to find in large cities. Nowhere, whether you speak of London or whether you speak of New York, they are not inclusive. So one of the reasons is that cities are economies and productivity. And all constituents who don't contribute to that really do not matter in the overall scheme of things. So you have to be extremely careful when you plan a city that if you want to go into that direction, then you have to plan much differently what normally a city would move in the direction in which it would move. So in summary, I would say that many of these things are happening are because we have not sufficiently realized what kind of cities we should promote and what kind of cities we should try and decelerate so that people can live in the manner that they want to live. It's livable, it is inclusive, it is people-centric, etc. Large cities will not provide that. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a lot of information to condense in 5 minutes. So we're going to be thinking about a lot of the concerns that both of you have brought up. I think it's only appropriate that I pass the floor to Vandana Ji.
Sure, thanks, sir. I'm glad that Palshikar ji and Ramanath ji have already set the context. At the outset, also let me thank INHAF and Kirti ji's passion, which drives this entire series of lectures. So thank you very much for having us here. Anupam, you have asked us a lot of questions in that one question. So let me just break it up. What does Pune mean to me? So I have been born and brought up in Pune and had the opportunity to work with the Pune Municipal Corporation. So being in that position, I consider Pune as my extended home. And literally, Pune is in my DNA. So you just wake me up, ask me any questions, and it's all for Pune. Secondly, I have as a kid seen Pune transform from a pensioner's paradise to now a young and vibrant city, which is absolutely a transformation and that we see, all of us see and realize the difference that it has made. If I have to describe Pune, I have a lot of adjectives, and I'm sure every Punekar will have a lot of adjectives how they could describe Pune. But I have chosen to take Pune. So three three strengths of Pune and two challenges that we faced with every letter that Pune brings in. So P, it is progressive, pleasant, pulsating, but heavily populated now. And what described Pune earlier as a peaceful city is no more, it's now a distant dream. You, you unique, upbeat, and charmingly unpretentious. Well, it's getting alarmingly unleashed and unstoppable. Just can't stop what mess is happening around us. N, nice, natural, nurturing, but becoming less neighborly and less nourishing in several ways, which I don't want to explain here. E of Pune, E is endearing, eclectic, expressive, but getting too energetic and costing the city its enchanting charm. So this is Pune for me. Pune for me is leaping, Pune is leaping at 10x speed, still carrying the hope that we will be able to stop the spinning which is going out of control. That's the only hope that we carry in Pune, and that what makes us all go ahead. Well, why is it your home? As somebody has rightly said, and on a personal note, home is where you will always have a place where you feel loved, where you will never be alone, and that's Pune for me, very honestly. You have asked us to share how you grew up in the city and what you miss most of the Pune that I knew. Well, where I stayed, I mean, every Punekar will tell you this lovely neighborhood. In the neighborhood that you stayed, you knew everybody, each and everybody with their name. Unfortunately, it doesn't remain anymore. As a kid, I remember going to the Dhankaudi Katrat side where it wasn't a cement jungle that time. Palshikarji would know. It were beautiful hills, green. It reminded me of Sound of Music, the picturization in Austria, which just feels beautiful. Even if you're not there, you can experience that it's so beautiful. Well, now it's all a cement jungle. Green avenues, University Road, all those beautiful banyan trees. I remember standing there for a bus, PMT bus, and then swinging on those branches which were hanging. Those trees are not there anymore. No, this generation would never even know that such trees existed. Public spaces just beyond those that green avenue of banyan trees was the uh, Garware fountain where we used to go in the evenings and get ourselves wet. Nothing remains, no public spaces remain. We used to go to Deccan Camp for shopping, window shopping, and always found a place to park our vehicles. Not the scene anymore. So these are things which have certainly changed and certainly not for the better. These are alarming. And all this has changed except the PMT bus. Only the name has changed from PMT to PML. However, you still see people hanging in the bus. I remember going to school. While going to school, we were scared that we would miss the bus and then get a spanking because we were late, and that happened very often because we never got the bus on time. And while returning, again the bus was all full, so we had to walk down almost 3.5 kilometers back home. Well, it's unfortunate that the scene remains the same. So on that count, nothing has changed. So this is something that we miss, and this is something that still remains as and agonizes us that why can't we change this situation? Uh, you have asked us what you believe must fundamentally change in how we think about cities development, and here I feel I have 4 points I would like to make. First and foremost is the development should not be measured only in the terms of economic indices or metrics. It should be based on how well we have been able to serve the most vulnerable. It should be based on how much impact we create on the environment. Unfortunately, this doesn't form a part of any of the matrices which we calculate when we talk about development of cities. We are only talking about what economic progress has happened, what is the budget of this year, how much budget allocation has been made for infrastructure and things like that. What about our health? What about our education systems? Those are all lacking. And these are things. What about the housing for the poor? What about the amenities for the poor? This is something that is totally lacking. Ramanath Ji mentioned about the hills, even the rivers of Pune. These are lungs for the city, and this is something that we have to maintain. Have we ever calculated what cost we will be enduring if we do not address these issues? Cities will keep growing, but what about these open spaces which actually uh, provide us the oxygen and the livability for all these cities? So that is the second point I would like to say. The second point, in fact, is with the rapid urbanization, we have to give a serious thought to what is the carrying capacity of every city. Cities are bursting from its seams. Palshikar ji mentioned that it's just growing and growing, and we realize that cities are growing so fast, rapidly. We are not able to cater to the needs of water. Look at the traffic on the roads, bumper to bumper. Ramanath ji just mentioned that we are amongst the worst cities, not only in India, but we rank in the world, that we are absolutely bad on that count. And in spite of this, the government now brings something called the UDCPR, the Unified DC Rules. Pune had an FSI of 1, and now it has been increased to, in some places, 5, in some places, 7, in some places, 9. If this is the kind of population that is going to come into Pune, how are we going to ensure the quality of life for the people? How are we going to ensure that what kind of basic services we are going to provide for our people? Air quality is already bad. Water tankers are supplying water to several societies. So this is something that we will have to sit down and make sure that the government comes out with carrying capacities for every city, and we will have to restrict. We'll have to make alternative plans as to where the population would go. Number three, every developmental project will have to be seen from the lens of sustainability. Climate change is an issue which is impacting humankind, and especially the cities. The flooding in the cities, heating of cities. We never experienced a summer which was so hot ever in Pune. This was the hottest summer in Pune. Flooding every year, some or the other part of Pune is flooded, and um, people are washed off, cars are washed off, property is damaged. So this is something that we have to cater to. So every project of the municipal corporation which happens will have to be seen from the lens of sustainability. Even if it's a road, even if it's a footpath, even if it is any construction whatsoever, it has to take into consideration what is the impact going to be as far as sustainability and environment, climate change is concerned. My last point on that issue would be, last and not the least, that it has to be people centric. We have to have the involvement of people in governance system. There are several documents which say that people's participation is very important. In fact, the 74th amendment of the constitution also said it's not just the elected body which represents in the general body, but there will have to be 5 members from the NGOs who will be represented, and they will be a voice for the community. But however, we see those nominations are also more or less political. So we will have to make sure that people are involved in decision making. Only then can we hope to have good governance and make sure that the accountability and ownership of projects are taken up, and the development of the city happens in that way. So thank you very much. Those were some of the inputs I had from my side.
Yeah, that's I share your memories very much of Pune, because I too grew up in the Pune that you just described, and you almost accurately captured how I feel about Pune. I think I'm looking at Meherji to bring us some hope about what Pune might become. because I think there is a lot of picture that maybe we have set about the despair, about what it is not, and maybe the kind of fast thinking that happens or has happened over the years that has led us into what Pune is. And so maybe the hope of some slow thinking and deliberate thinking coming from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anupam. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kirtiji, for inviting me here today. I'm amongst real stalwarts who have really helped in terms of being very much a part of Pune, in terms of the DNA, in terms of the bureaucracy, in terms of really helping Pune. I really want to say that, well, I moved to Pune. I was born in Bombay, but moved to Pune when I was 3 years old. And we moved to Pune simply because my grandfather and my father were starting manufacturing. And Bombay was very expensive. And so I remember actually coming to Pune and seeing the land in Chinchwad, which was complete forest. Forest meaning very, very tall grass, almost wild creatures in that area, and very different Pune. And that's where we actually set up our first manufacturing plant. Of course, today, Pimpri Chinchwad PCMC is very much a part of Pune and much beyond. So it's extended much, much beyond. But I think Pune has become, as someone said earlier, a hub for manufacturing, a hub for IT, and in that sense, educational institutions, but I would say higher educational institutions, and I would love to talk about school education, where we are still very far behind. We have such contrasts. I mean, we have real prosperity, and then we have terrible poverty. We have world-class technology, and we have roads that are crumbling. We have smart solutions, and we have an infrastructure that is also crumbling. And so, when I grew up in Pune, I really want to paint that picture, and all of you would know that, it was very different. Lot of open spaces, as Vandana said, lots of green cover, very little traffic. I feel the traffic, even though it was very little, was more disciplined. I feel today discipline is completely out of the window, sadly. It was a smaller community. As she said, everyone knew everyone. And we had a beautiful flowing river in the heart of our city. And so I feel a lot of it is very, very different today. But Pune is still home. I was on ChatGPT and I said, which is the most livable city in India? And it said Bangalore first and Pune a close second. I still love Pune. As everyone has said, Pune is very much home to me. I think there's an 19 piece ka farak in many cities, other cities in India. But I've grown up over here. The kind of people, I feel Pune is unique in that when there is a problem, I still find that everyone comes together to solve it. And I think that is quite unique about Pune. Maybe Bangalore is like that as well. And in many ways, I still remember it so clear in my mind with COVID, when COVID happened. There was a Pune platform for COVID response, which quickly came together. And we had somebody who led it. We had industry that came together, civil society, government. I mean, everyone came together, hospitals, so there was a problem and people came together to sort it out. I remember many years ago, when there still is, as Mr. Palshikar said, an electricity problem. But I remember it was far worse many years ago. And so again, Pune came together and said, how does industry use its generating sets to look at electricity coming from generators in those days, so that the city of Pune could have more electricity. So we don't take from the city of Pune for manufacturing. And so I'm saying that like that, I think just now, I mean, Vandana and so many people have been working for biodiversity parks, for our hilltops, for the river. So there's lots of people coming together. But I really do want to say maybe few things in terms of how do we think of really, I don't know about fixing the problem, but many basics. I think the first thing is many basics need to be fixed. Lots of Pune lack reliable sanitation, drainage, municipal solid waste disposal. I think these are just basics. And as Vandana mentioned, if we have the FSIs going up to 9 now, I dread to think what will happen. Has anybody even given it a thought in terms of how is the city going to manage? Yeah. I feel my mom says this very often, business cannot survive in a society that fails. And what does that really mean? It means we need good quality holistic education. We need inclusivity. We need safe places. We need peace. We need a healthy society. We need a society which is clean, because that in effect relates to health. We need stable governance. We need footpaths. I mean, the other day I was crossing the road on a one-way lane. I was walking back from my mom's house to my house and crossing the road, and a one-way road. So I looked at the traffic coming down from that one way and walked onto the road, and a motorcyclist came and hit me from the opposite direction. And I said, "Aap kya kar rahe ho?" Coming from the opposite end. And he said, "But you should be looking left and right when crossing a road." And I thought to myself, if it's a one-way road, why would I look to the right? So coming back to the indiscipline. And I truly believe that a footpath in many ways, or when you think of the person that is walking, you really build a city for everyone. And we talked about, somebody spoke about a metro to reduce, Mr. Jha spoke about it, to reduce traffic congestion. I love the fact that we're looking at the metro and we're trying to build it, but nobody has thought of last mile connectivity at the metro. Where the hell do we where do people park their cars or bikes or whatever it is? Number two, I feel that it will only reduce congestion if we change mindsets. Because today, the well-to-do feel it's infra, it's below our dignity to go onto a tube, onto a metro. So we will continue with our cars, So unless people who drive today leave their cars behind and get onto that metro, we're not going to reduce congestion. We don't need the two-wheelers to stop it as much as we need the cars to stop it. The third, I would say, is education. And I really would like to talk at some point in time. We call ourselves the Oxford of the East. We have great universities. But I would say our school education, and I'm talking about for the poor, okay, is far away from where we should be. And unless we lift the poor out of poverty and transform their lives, no city is really going to improve. Yeah. And the fourth, I would say, is putting people at the heart of governance. So you have people listening to the voice of the customer. Who is the customer? The customer are the citizens of Pune. So really listening to their voice. And I loved what Vandana, you said in terms of measuring success, not just GDP. even though I come from the corporate sector, probably I think more socially than corporate. But I truly believe that there is so much that we need to think about beyond GDP or economic development of any city, country. And I'll just end with a phrase that I very often talk even in business, which is that business has to be based on growth and profits, or else it will die. But if business is based solely on growth and profits, then it also shall die, for it no longer has a reason for its existence. So I think the role of business is far, far beyond just a top line and a bottom line, just as the role of development in a city or a country or the planet Earth. I'll stop there.
Yeah, that I think resonates very much. I thank you for that hope that, coming from you, saying that, a business has to remember more than simply creating economic growth. And, the reason for our living is far beyond just the economic growth. I think more power to what you're saying. I think that kind of thinking is probably what we need to percolate down all over, not just in Pune, but other cities too. I think we are mistaking cities as just economic engines, and therefore losing out the importance of life as it exists for all of us. So, I think when all of you spoke, I kept wondering, who is Pune and why? And, we talk so much about development of Pune, and we talk about the fact that it has changed. So then who is Pune? Who is this development for, and what does it mean for you? How does each one of you recognize who is Pune? This time, I think I would like to start with Vandana Ji.
Well, I was trying to find the difference between the question and the first, what Pune means to you, and now who is Pune. So for me, Pune has certainly been unique in every way. As I said, we've seen it evolving from a pensioner's paradise to a youthful city. Most of the metros, if you see in other in the country, they've grown through industrial settlements. There was an industry which came in and people started coming and settling in that city. Whereas for Pune, it has been that we have developed through initially and through educational institutes. And educational institutes which brought culture, which brought value, which brought knowledge, and even civic engagement in several different ways. There have been several national institutes which are housed in Pune, and for reasons known to all of us. Now that we see Pune is has a traditional culture, at the same time modern IT aspirations which are met for the youngsters. Secondly, it has a cantonment. At the same time, it has pet areas which are equally, traditional and have tried to retain their culture. Students from all over the world, all over the country, come to Pune, and as Mr. Jha also has settled in Pune, there are several people who retire from their jobs and love Pune and stay there. So Pune in that way is very, very unique. And therefore, even at the municipal corporation level, the local government, you see Pune has come up with a lot of firsts. Municipal corporation was for the first time came out with the ESR, which was mandated by the 74th Amendment, the Environment Status Report. The second one, which you mentioned, Anupam, you were the one who was instrumental in drafting it. Pune again was the first city which came out with including global warming as one of its subjects in the ESR itself. Pune is the first city who has done its carbon inventory and decided how it needs to take steps to go forward. So, in a way, I would say, who is Pune? Pune is India's laboratory for inclusive urban development. We have done a lot of taken a lot of initiatives to actually make Pune different from other cities. In fact, other cities have emulated Pune in several ways. Even in the competitions and awards that happen all over the country and in the world, Pune has always surpassed a lot of municipal corporations. So, in that sense, we are a pioneer in several ways. I would say Pune is not only the municipal corporation, but it is this federation of communities which make Pune, and that is Pune.
So, Ramanath Ji, you mentioned that, a lot of people actually uh, come into urban areas and they are attracted into urban areas, and that's basically an urban engine. So, in terms of who is Pune, is it actually the people who came up, resided in Pune from a very early stage of their life? Or Pune is all the people who have come in the last decade? And you probably have the latest figures, but I understand the decadal changes that now almost 1 in every 2 Puneites has lived here less than 15 years. So who is Pune?
I don't think Pune is any particular group or any demographic section, but Pune is a city where all the people who come in here are contributors to the city's life. And therefore, every citizen in Pune is a part of that Pune. I think that's the only way one would like to live, one like to figure a city. Now, we know that cities attract migration, and it is the main way in which a city grows. Earlier, it was growing through local population rise, local multiplication, but now our reproductive rate has gone down, and therefore migration has taken over as the largest contributor to a city. The problem is that while people want to come to cities, obviously because cities provide opportunities for the poor because their sustenance is not available in the villages, so they have to come to the city, and others for education, for employment, for business. So cities are traditionally, down the history, the hub of growth of any economy. And I would like to underplay that role. That role remains paramount in a nation's life. Cities must be economically vibrant. The question is, does a country of 1.4 billion people have only 10 cities where the economy will be vibrant? Or are we going to spread urbanization? So today what is happening is that those who want to come to cities find an urban, what I call an urban destination deficit. Where do they go? So they will go to Pune, they will go to Bangalore, they will go to Mumbai, they will go to such cities, which are Hyderabad. So there are very few of them for the size and the dimension of migration that will take place. So the utmost policy deficit that this country faces in urbanization is the decentralization of urbanization. So what you have to do is to limit densification of a city beyond a point where agglomeration becomes counterproductive. Agglomeration is always good for economy, but as we have seen, agglomeration economy is not the only thing. And Madam Pudumjee very rightly said that economy is not the only thing, but it is the thing out of all the things. But it just cannot grow widely like a cancer. So it needs to therefore shift into other cities. Though China is not the best example to give, but in terms of urbanization, look at the number of cities they have grown. they decentralized their urbanization because they realized that at a certain point, the city starts becoming counterproductive. So that's a policy decision that has to be taken at the top. The other issues are, of course, reforms, because now we are at a point where no reform has taken place despite the 74th Amendment and despite everyday experience that reforms ought to happen. Those are in the areas of governance. Governance framework has to be got right. They are in the areas of revamping urban planning. You just can't go on distributing FSI the way you are today. And you have to ultimately also give money because cities don't have the wherewithal by which they can run cities. In my calculation, overall, most very well provided cities, as we would call them in the Indian context, can provide services that are only 1/3 of what is required, whether it is Mumbai or any other city. So financially, when the GST came, it took away all the revenue handles of a city, leaving only property tax. And no city in the world runs on property tax. So we are in a position where we want the cities to run well, but we don't think money is an important part of that. They can run without it. They can run on water. That is not going to happen. Back to you, sir.
Thank you. Palshikar ji, with 9 FSI, who is going to be Pune?
Clearly, with this FSI, there are two possibilities. One is what I said earlier, that a certain section would sort of grow in size and power. But also this FSI thing means that there is a certain industrial interest, construction, which is going to grow rather than anything else. There was a mention made earlier also that housing is rather unaffordable in Pune. And that would continue in spite of, because of this rise in FSI. So yes, who is going to be the Pune? The answer is that if you look at the trend of in-migration in Pune, and I agree with everyone that yes, cities would grow only through migration in modern times, but that migration in Pune seems to be of two types. And we don't have a clear, let us say, sociological handle to capture which one dominates. One is the skilled, mainly in IT industry, but otherwise also in manufacturing, those who come for those jobs. And secondly, the service sector, particularly service sector of a lower economic order, where you find people not only from Odisha and Northwest Bengal, but also a large numbers coming from Marathwada region of Maharashtra. So that constitutes a large number of in-migration in Pune, and that constitutes both, on the one hand, a collective of different communities, and then the challenge is, as Vandana mentioned the word, can be converted into a federation of communities. Today, I don't think we are a federation of communities. We are only a collective of communities which are probably at loggerheads, and that is natural. The second thing about who is Pune, I would say, is that the main lacking, it's not because one laments that Pune is no more a pensioner city, good riddance, that it is not a pensioner city anymore. That's not the point. The point is, in finding out its identity, are there cultural contestations in the city? And I don't find any such cultural contestations in the city. Kirtiji has titled this webinar for 2050. But if we stretch it a little farther to 2057, that would be 200 years when Pune became a city, municipality. And since then, Pune had initially, in the first 100 years, witnessed a lot of cultural contestations through which the so-called culture of Pune evolved. We don't find that today. But somebody might think that 200 years ago is a very ancient time. So even if you come to the 1960s and 70s, one finds the movement started by Baba Adhav for informal sector workers. Today, nobody even thinks of mobilizing them and doing anything for them. Today, we of course don't call them informal sector worker. We have more fashionable terms for them. They are, service executives and whatnot. By calling them executives, you don't really mobilize them, give them any identity or care for them. So I think that is lacking in today's Pune. Thank you.
Meherji?
Yeah, I guess for me, who is Pune? Pune is a thinker. And I was looking at in terms of huge student population, lot of researchers, lot of reformists, activists, people that come together, people that debate, people that question the status quo. So I think Pune is a thinking city in that sense, yeah. A maker because of manufacturing, a lot of startups, and the last is a nurturer. I didn't realize that Pune is actually home to 350,000 migrants from all over India, which are very much a part of our ecosystem. The silent workers, we don't even know that they exist. So we have nurtured, well, I don't know whether I can actually say we nurtured them. They have come here because of work and we've attracted them. But nurturing them, making them feel that Pune is as much home to them as much as it is to us is something that I would love to see. We've nurtured a lot of NGOs. I think Pune has tons and tons of pretty good NGOs. And I would say that Pune also has had the few municipal commissioners that I have known, Mr. Jha and many others. I think we've really had good people also in governance areas. I think very often your hands are tied in terms of what you can do. And I think the expectations of every citizen is it's the government's responsibility. And so who is Pune? I think if all these, which are the thinkers, the makers, the nurturers, if we were all to really come together, I don't know, maybe we could be a very different Pune.
Thank you. So this next question is going to be a very rapid question. I want a very quick answer from everyone. And the question is, if you were to just choose one thing from all that we have in the title, economic vibrancy, livability, people-centric design, inclusion, climate readiness, which one would you choose and why? So just a very quick answer from each one of you. This time, maybe I can start with Palshikar ji.
Sorry. I don't think there would be any much dispute, livability. And I would say that livability would include, by definition, the idea of inclusion. You cannot imagine livability without inclusion. But more on that later if time permits.
Ramanath ji?
Well, a city essentially has to be a combination of three E's: the economy, the environment, and the issue of equity. So you have to balance those three. Any city which gets imbalanced on that count is not the ideal city.
Meher ji?
I would say probably inclusion, because if a city is inclusive, I feel everything else follows. If you really think on the lines of inclusion, everything, livability follows inclusion, environmental follows inclusion, environmental justice follows inclusion. I think in some ways inclusion would be my, yeah.
Vandana ji?
Yeah, if it was a multiple choice, I would, you would have given all of the above, I would have picked that. but I would say people-centric design, because when we design for the community's needs, then the economic vibrancy follows naturally. Livability improves as people shape their future. Inclusion happens when public spaces welcomes everybody. And climate readiness when people start deliberating and discussing and then taking action on whatever they discuss and find needs to be done. So I would rate public-centric design first to get people together.
Okay, so I want to turn to the learnings that each one of you has had over the last 25, 30, 40 years of what you have been doing in the urban space. So I'm going to start with Ramanath Ji, and I'd like you to tell us something about what informed your understanding about cause and effect in the urban space, what we need to do in order to have a particular effect or an impact 25 years ago or 30 years ago, and what informs it today. Is there a change, or is it the same thing that informs you in terms of cause and effect or your understanding of it?
Well, there are two aspects to it. One is that while you are working on cities, from one city to the other, and I've had the good fortune of working in small cities like Pandharpur and larger cities, medium-sized cities like Sholapur, Pune, and MMRDA, and the United Nations. Each experience was your horizon. Some of the things that I thought right at the beginning, they started collapsing when I went to a larger city like Pune. My views on slums and how they evolve, and how one should look at as an administrator, at slums as an administrator, those have gone change. On the academic side, I find that urbanization has become extremely dynamic. Things change every 10 years. To give you an example, for instance, when it is a small city, the governance mechanism, the governance architecture that you require for a small city is entirely different from what you require for a large city. The metropolitan angle or the mega city angle brings an entirely new dimension. And you have to then start figuring out what would be the urban architecture for that. How would you plan these areas, etc., etc. So it's a very complex set of things. And as you read more, as you write more, as you work in more cities, it's an extremely difficult thing. And my last experience on this was when I was doing the development plan of Mumbai, and followed by the parking, the creation of the Mumbai Parking Authority in Mumbai. They were huge experiences, and I think I'm still trying to learn the very basics of what urbanization is and the issues that impact on urbanization.
Palshikar Ji?
Well, it's from the other point that I would be speaking, not as someone who has worked on Pune city, etc. But what changes the thinking is that at one point one would think that if you have a certain type or certain amount of democratization, it would automatically lead to people's initiatives and agency among the actors. It now seems that that doesn't happen. It requires much more effort and mobilization. So that's why I mentioned the example of Baba Adao, that even after 40 years of that, you find that you still need sustained effort. Things don't happen automatically. The same thing happens to 74th Amendment, that there are certain rights and powers mentioned in it. But that doesn't mean that that automatically happens. There has to be a continuous political effort. And by political, I mean effort to mobilize the people. Unless that happens, you cannot reap the fruits of such initiatives. So that is, in a sense, a learning that for a city to be vibrant, for its politics to be people-friendly, there is a need to have a continuous effort by every stakeholder, not just by politicians, because it is easy to put the blame or responsibility in the lap of the politician. But in a sense, everyone has to ask this question: am I a citizen of this community? And for that question to be meaningful, we need to mobilize. And just to quickly go back to what I initially said, this mobilization has to be mobilization of the lower half of the society rather than the more vocal upper half of the society. That's the rider. But that is what I thought.
Meherji?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have too much to say over here, but I mean, just if you look at cause and effect, and if you look at it, I think if we look at it in terms of silos, I mean, just for example, like you say, if I build a road, traffic will ease. Yeah. If you create jobs, a city will prosper. But if you see that very often, if you build a road, traffic increases. So pollution worsens, you know. So you think that you built a road to decrease congestion, but actually, so in some ways, that cause and effect needs a systems thinking approach, that long-term thinking that you spoke about, you know. But I mean, I don't have much more to say over there.
Thank you. Vandana ji, so I'm going to combine this with another question for you. So the other question is essentially, do we need to unlearn anything about that we know about development or urbanization based on any change that we have had in our perception about cause and effect that we have learned over the years? And what would that be?
So basically, as Jha Saab rightly said, urbanization has become very dynamic, and unfortunately, the administration is not able to cater to that kind of speed that is required to really address these issues. He rightly said, and I concur, that issues are very complex, challenges are very complex, and they involve a lot of aspects. There is no one solution fits all kind of condition, and a particular decision, whichever is taken, has a ripple effect on several other things. For example, I remember there was a SRA scheme happening in my ward when I was a corporator, and the people had to be shifted from Navi Pet to Hadapsar area. Now, going that far was really difficult for them, and certainly they were getting better houses. Otherwise, they were staying in a slum. But in spite of getting better houses, they were very not ready to accept the decision, for the simple reason, hesitant to accept the decision, because their jobs were at stake, the children's school education was at stake, and therefore these are factors which have to be accounted for, and therefore it may work in one place, it may not work in another place. Even road widening, as Mayor rightly said, when you talk about road widening, yes, the road becomes wider, but the trees get cut. And of course, if you have a flyover, there is a flyover, it decongests the crossroad, but the bottleneck is created further and even before. So these are issues which have to be handled in that particular condition. What do we need to unlearn is very important. And one thing I feel that we always believe that faster is better. Let's we get a 5-year term as a corporator. Let's develop Pune city very fast. Let's do whatever possible we can. But we have to understand that infrastructure alone is not development, because that's where the slow thinking needs to happen. As Anupam rightly said, slow thinking or fast thinking. As of today, the way Pune is developing, I think we need to go very slow. We need to better our existing systems. It could be, as I said earlier, also our education system, our health provision system. All this has to be re-looked into, and tried to get back on path rather than coming out with new projects. So faster is not better. Infrastructure alone is not development. And there is a myth that citizens' participation um, delays development. I think that is not the correct way to look at it. lot of corporators, the administration, again, I would say, though the 74th Amendment mandates for people's participation, none of these try to involve people. And because they do not involve people, there is no feeling of ownership amongst the people. This is my project. This is where I have been asked whether this is right or this is wrong. And ultimately, we realize that most of the projects fail on that count. For example, we had SRA schemes where we have 11 floors of buildings. Now, 11 floors, imagine people don't pay maintenance, their lifts don't work, and they have to climb 11 floors. Most of the senior citizens don't even come down, and they have no social life left for them. So these are issues which we have to think about. Unfortunately, it's not been thought about enough, and we need to revisit all these things which we have been doing as of now. So these are unlearnings which we have to take up as fast as possible and try to build those things in our systems.
So Ramanath Ji, that brings me to the idea that, we need to, do cities really need to have some kind of a theory of change? Because we somehow take the idea of development to be a universal, brush that we can put across a city and everything will be fine. Or there is only, maybe it appears that there is one kind of thinking that we need to cater to more and more infrastructure in order to make a city viable and livable and grow. So with all your work on urbanization, do you see that there is a need for each city to develop its own theory of change? And what's driving the cause and effect relationships within the city to shape it into what it must become?
Anupam Ji, each city developing its own theory of change is okay. But there are certain basics that each city has to do. Now, there cannot be a theory of change that we will not pick up our solid waste. Solid waste has to be picked up, right? You have to provide water, you have to provide infrastructure, but are you going to provide, as many of our speakers said, only infrastructure? So a proper balance is something that has to be maintained. Now, is this Greek to most of our people? No, it is not. I mean, cities are not built only in India. In India, there are cities that have been built all across the world. And there are examples, there is theory that is already existing, which says that a city has to be balanced. Now, if we are not prepared to do this, it is very difficult to have a good city. Madam Chauhan was talking about people's participation, absolutely, significant in a city, because a city will not thrive unless there is people's participation. Do we have people's participation in our country? No. Why don't we have it? Because the state does not want it. Now, we had the center telling us this is the Nagar Raj bill. Why don't you adopt it? The Nagar Raj bill was not adopted by any state in the entire country, which clearly indicates that people, the people in power do not want people's participation. Now, if you are going to deny the basics, obviously then you are going to struggle with your cities, because the voices, if they get muted, you won't get the right kind of advice.
Okay.
Do the basics right. Right.
I think it's more than simply keeping the operations right, because as we all narrated during the last few minutes, the city of Pune has changed itself and its shape very much from what many people would like it to become. So obviously, there has been a change or a shift in thinking about what it should be. And so from that perspective, what I mean by a theory of change is there a long-term perspective in terms of, not just 10, 20 years or maybe the term of the current people in the administration, to really looking at the lifetime of people who are living in the city, or even beyond that to a few hundred years, because
the current The current
Yes.
theory of change going around the country's powers that be is centralized. So there is a whole wave of centralization that is happening across the country. Look at the Greater Bengaluru Act, where the city will be divided into 10 municipal corporations, and the Greater Bengaluru area would be headed by a chief minister and a chief commissioner. So you will have a commissioner sitting by another commissioner appointed by the state. And a cursory reading of the bill shows that powers are being taken away from the city to the state. So if the city itself does not have any power, what power will it give to the citizens?
So is that a direction that you would like it to go? Because that means that the theory of
Obviously
change
not.
is that the state decides.
Obviously not.
Okay, so the next round of questions is a rapid round again, very quickly, to each one of
I
you.
think we are not leaving any time for the
So I'm
citizens.
going to, that's why a very short next round. I want you to each one name one counterintuitive change which has happened in your experience, one decision which led to a consequence that nobody expected, and what lessons we can draw from it. Very, very quick answers from each one of you. Maybe starting with you, Ramanath Ji, because you have the mic.
I can't think of one.
Many.
Many.
Okay. So that again underscores the point that we need a theory of change. Vandana Ji?
I agree, as Jaji said, that there are many. In fact, we thought Pune would expand into a IT hub, etc., etc. Never did we realize, or never did we plan what kind of housing crisis will appear. Didn't we realize there'll be social equity would be an issue. Economic development is happening on one side, but at the same time, it triggers a lot of other things like traffic jams and social segregation, etc., etc. So there are several other issues. I would say that once you try to do something, but yeah, it's counterintuitive impacts do appear.
Meher Ji?
I'm not sure that I can add over here. Sorry.
Suhas Ji?
I think I would go with the earlier speakers, but particularly I think this decision to have an IT hub would be a classic case study into what are the expectations and what actually happens over a period of time. It's 30 years now since it was done, and whether it brought resource richness, whether it brought gentrification of workforce. I think in both these, we have counterintuitive outcomes. And there is a sense of precariousness among the workforce in Pune city that predominates today. So that would be a classic example. I'm not blaming the policy. What I'm saying is that that is how policies often really spill over into the field of actual practice. And that is why it is a learning lesson for the city planner as to what was expected of the IT hub and what has happened because of it or despite it.
Thank you. So I have a lot of questions, but I want to leave time for the audience. And so before I hand over to the audience questions, I would like each one of you to leave behind something to empower our audience and beyond to whatever the next 25 years hold for Pune. And so if there's anything you want to say that will empower them about what they can do, I would appreciate that. Maybe we start with you, Ramanath Ji.
I think citizens need to react to what is happening around them and use social media as a powerful tool which is available to them.
Suhas Ji?
I'm my analysis would be marked by a certain amount of pessimism. So I would only want to warn that if we are thinking of 25 years of a horizon, then are we as a city sitting on an implosion that is waiting to happen? And what are we going to do about it, both as planners, academicians, or as ordinary citizens?
Meherji?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Mr. Jha in terms of using your voice. Voice has power through social media or whichever means. But I also do want to, because I've been wanting to talk about a little bit about school education. I honestly think we really need to change the school education. Pune is one city that has schooling, English medium schools. We have 60 of them. None of them that are government run, yeah, none of them go beyond grade 8. And in many ways, I think education is such a basic thing, such a basic right in some ways, that I feel that everyone should really move to first of all move it to at least 10th standard, if not 12th, because many of our children drop out, or they go to low-income private schools, which are not really much better. So similarly, Marathi medium schools, only 10% go up to grade 10. They all stop at grade 8. Why should that be? And I really feel this right to education in terms of going through the municipal schools is such a powerful leveler in society. When children have an education, I mean, there is a level playing field in that sense. So I really feel that and there are NGOs that have come in to bridge some of the gaps, but I think it's such a basic right, and having a holistic education, if we can all really help towards that, would be great.
You just outlined the theory of change for Pune. What really would make a difference if done the right way?
Right.
So I think it's very important. And perhaps that's one of the things that we have missed over the last, 25, 30, 40 years. So it's important. Vandana Ji?
Yeah, so I would say the most powerful tool for urban change would be consistent and continuous citizens' action. I don't know whether you're aware, Anupam, but the government has, since the last municipal corporation elections, mandated 4 members per ward. The voters don't know who their candidate is, and they go as per the party and go and vote. They don't, even after elections, even after the results out, they don't even know who their corporator is. This is a mini Vidhan Sabha ward, so it is so huge that people don't know, the citizens don't know who should they be holding accountable for the work or for the problems that they have. And so in the light of the fact that it's a 4-member ward, no accountability, no transparency, no access to whatever problems you have and get it redressed, I think the only solution is that citizens have to become very, very active. Not only active in their ward committees, voicing their concerns, but also in making their daily choices as to transportation, as to housing, as to consumption. All this is something that is absolutely required. So empowerment of citizens, capacity building of citizens is something that needs to be taken up. And Punekars, in fact, are on the forefront for all these issues. If you see all these other cities in India, along with Bangalore, I think Pune is the only city where citizens have their voices. But it is unfortunate, for every issue that they raise, they have to fight the system. They have to go and make agitations. They don't get appointments with the elected representatives or even the municipal commissioners or the officers concerned. Now, this is something which is absolutely not done. So the only thing, if we have to change for Pune, is getting our systems together and having consistent citizens' action.
Well, thank you, all of you, because this has been very enriching for me. And as I'm sure it has been for all the audience. I'm sure there's so much wisdom and learning that we all will carry back. And I hope many of the administrators of current day Pune are listening to all of you. and what you have to offer about your experiences and wisdom, and they will shape what they have to do based on it. I can see that there are a lot of questions, and Chitrakshi was going to coordinate and raise few of the questions, and then the floor would be back to Kirtiji to have the last word for all of us. So over to you, Chitrakshi, for the questions from the audience.
Hello, sir. So there are 5 questions in the Q&A box and 3 questions in the chat. So should I?
Yes, please. You can quickly. I think we have probably run over time. So respecting everybody's time, I think you can be brief about the questions and maybe the responses too.
Okay, Reena Mukherjee is a journalist from Civil Society magazine. She would like to know, will the panelists to comment on the Smart Cities program in which Pune is included?
Any one person can respond to a question. So
I can say only in one sentence, it was a totally failed endeavor.
thank you. Next question.
Many questions around the growth of the city talks about how there are too many people. Even Nitin Gadkari mentioned this when he inaugurated the Chandni Chowk intersection. Every economic theory points to the fact that cities make countries richer, more healthy, and more educated. Saying the carrying capacity of cities has been reached in is so extremely unfair to those who are growing up in villages and now aspire to come to the city.
No, I think nobody
Anyone?
is saying that people shouldn't come to cities. It has already been pointed out even during the panel discussion that a more decentralized urbanization, I think that was the word which Ramanath Jha used, a
Yes.
more decentralized urbanization need to take place, which means that smaller towns and cities need to grow so that the unfair burden on large cities and therefore unfair lifestyle that city dwellers have to encounter is avoided. So the theory is not that people shouldn't come to cities anymore. At least that is not what this panel is saying. This panel probably is saying that cities should be better and more cities should be further better so that there are better opportunities for those who move to cities.
I think Mr. Palshikar has put it brilliantly. I'll just add that there is no country till now which has succeeded in stopping urbanization. Even those that are urbanized 90% are becoming 91%. So it's a historical force that you cannot contend with.
Next question.
Hello. The
Yeah.
next question is for Vandana ma'am. Would you say Pune has changed from, as you said, a pensioner's paradigm with conservative, Brahminical, self-centered families to progressive, pluralistic, inclusive activist groups, city demanding social justice and environmental sustainability, but now becoming westernized corporate culture influenced, badly governed megacity?
So when Anupam asked us this question about who is Pune, Pune has two kinds of people. One who was originally from Pune, others who have come from outside and settled in Pune, but are taking active part in the problems and challenges of Pune. And there is a major lot who is still not involved in anything that is happening. I think that is, I wouldn't call it Western culture, but I just feel that they need to be sensitized further to become a part of this process of voicing issues, which is the need of the day.
Thank you, ma'am. The policies and regulations are all there at national and state level, but they seem to have no teeth. There is little data in the public domain with respect to city infrastructure and natural features for informed decision making by various stakeholders. It is clear we need reforms with our governance framework. In our experiences of having worked within or closely with them, What are the challenges in accomplishing them?
One. Nobody wants to.
No, the challenge as outlined lies in political will in pushing those reforms. And government's own administrative reforms commissions have talked about them. For instance, one of the most major reforms that has been suggested in the governance architecture is that you need to have the mayor as the chief executive. Now, this is something which is practiced in most developed countries, and anyone who has worked in cities finds that bureaucrats who keep moving from one place to another are not in a position to take long-term decisions, and therefore the kind of leadership that is required in a city is not available today. This is a basic requirement where you are not bureaucratizing the urban architecture. And I'm sad to say, like, for instance, in the state of Punjab, for instance, the developmental authorities were headed by the chief minister. Now they've replaced that to be headed by the chief secretary. Now, I don't see how the state government itself can do this. The state.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Pune city has reached all its capacity in services that are necessary for a well-run city. The UDCPR has generated so much buildable area that the only alternative, many of us activists think that the only alternative is to stop entry into Pune and make a sister city that is redesigned to create a better city in terms of urban design and systems capacity.
So world over, people are talking about compact cities, vertical cities, and we blindly follow this model. Pune is already a very, very dense city. It cannot take any more densities. The unfortunate part about UDCPR, it's okay, I mean, to increase the FSI, but do we have the water? Do we have the basic amenities? There is no study done. There has to be a study before you take such decisions. And the unfortunate part is, without any kind of application of mind, the UDCPR has come into being, and that itself is something which is a matter of great concern for us.
Next question.
Yes, sir. Next question is for Vandana ma'am. Don't you think part of the problem lies in more and more areas being added into the municipal limits? While roads are in bad state and signals are generally not working, more areas are being included, making it difficult.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. And all the areas which get merged are um, already developed in the Gauthan kind of under those laws of that village, and there is no scope for improving any of the merged areas into Pune. And therefore, I think it should not be taken. There has to be a thought and process where proper application of mind is done before such areas are merged into the city. Otherwise, it's a failed exercise.
Mayorji had to leave us. I know it's getting late, so if any of you need to leave, I think it's quite fine. But I think we have to stop the questions here and turn to Kirtiji for the last word. So Kirtiji, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's not the last word because there is no time. I think we run out of time. And second thing is, I think everyone is probably tired. But a few things that I wanted to mention very quickly, whoever I think is here. I got a message midway through this conversation saying you require a second meeting of this kind with a different set of people. He said, you have people who are probably elite group, people who are privileged, and therefore I think that the way comes out, of the city is a different than what one would expect. This is number one. Number two is this, that I'm not really equipped, I have a credibility problem talking about Pune because I don't leave them. But there are two things that which are broader, which I would like to kind of mention in order to come to Pune. Like, say, for instance, if the statistics which are being thrown out, are correct, that India is going to have 870 million people in cities in the next 25 years, 2050. We're talking about doubling of the urban population in 25 years. If doubling of the population takes place in 25 years, and I'm sure it will also happen in case of Pune, do we have the capacity to deal with that huge level of exodus, or I think, fresh people coming in? Can you provide them jobs, housing, infrastructure, services, all that sort of a thing? That's number one. And the second broader example is the capacity of the local governments, capacity of the municipal governance. The cost estimates, that Ahluwalia Committee has produced, the World Bank has produced, is talking about a need for something like $680 billion in the next 15 years to look after your infrastructure need. Now, this $680 billion, which is talked about, and everyone has talked about the same thing, there's no big divergence, is this, that if you compare it with what happened with the earlier program of infrastructure investment, that program under Manmohan Singh government, I think it was one of the better managed program, better thought of a program. Over a period of 10 years, involved and invested just $14 billion. If you're able to involve $14 billion huffing and puffing in building up infrastructure, and if a requirement is $680 billion doing in 15 or 20 years, where is this capacity going to come from? And I think this is a larger question about all cities. This certainly is the question, I think, for Pune city itself. And I think, this questions of capacity, this questions, of cities bursting at seams is something very important. The third point I would like to make very quickly is a point that Wally Andau made where he was talking about, Habitat 2. What he said was very interesting. He said urbanization is such a complex phenomenon that unless we really find revolutionary ways of dealing with urban problems, we are not going to go very far. And that's a question that we need to ask, when in a meeting like this, in conversation like this, is revolution is visible anywhere in any form in terms of what is happening? That that the known ways are not going to work. That it require different strategies, different approach, different ways of looking at things. And is it anywhere available, seeable, visible in any form? And I think obvious answer is no, it's not there. Then this whole question, and so the whole question of sense of urgency, that we are headed towards a crisis, in terms of managing our cities, managing growth, managing development, and therefore we require different kind of tools, different kind of institutions, different kind of equations. Is not really visible there. Two other points very quickly, and I think Zahar Sahib mentioned this very quickly. He said, and I just wrote down the exact word he said. He said BRTS has collapsed in Pune. My question is, why is BRTS allowed to collapse in Pune? Who is asking questions? What is wrong with BRTS? As a matter of fact, if city requires, I think, public transport, BRTS probably is the most viable, workable, affordable form. And why is it allowed to be kind of, uh, destroyed? That's the word. And Pune was one of the pioneers. So question that one wants to ask is this: why is this not allowed to is to happen? Why is this not being questioned? Why are there no public outcries, I think, articles, people talking about this? And the last thing is something that one should mention. I think when you talk about poor, we're not talking about them, I think, as much as we do. Because Anupam Saab, I think, what you're saying, or what Ramanath sir is just saying, that if the urban growth is going to be kind of propelled by migration, who are the people who are migrating in cities? They're poor. And therefore, more and more people are going to invade, people who are going to invade your cities are the poor. And what are cities doing? For the poor who are already there, and the poor are going to come in. As a matter of fact, if you look at PMAY, which is a good program, one of the very interesting observation about that program is this, that even though 12 million houses have been built, even though 10 million are being built now, impact of this program has on slums is very limited. There's hardly any there. Are people from slums really, I think, being accommodated? Are slums decreasing? Are quality of life improving? And the answer is no. And then if you are really getting into bulldoze justice, that is, I think, coming through, what kind of life you expect poor people to have in your city? So these are the kind of, very big issues that I thought I'll mention. I don't have time to kind of go deeper into them, but I thought, I would just flag off and try and find out, I think, in terms of how do we deal with this. With this, I think we conclude, and thank you very much for everyone here. 2 hours and 15 minutes is a long time for most of us, and for the attention, for a tremendous amount of thought processes that have gone through. We're very grateful. I'm grateful on behalf of INHAF that you came, you invested your time, and I think, this particular process of putting it together is going on for months. So I've been bothering all of you, I think, saying this will happen, this date and that date, and you've been very cooperative and very supportive. This is not necessarily end of the process. Someone is telling me that maybe, I think, with different set of people, with different conditionalities, we should examine Pune's growth in the next 25 years. And I think hope that we will be able to do that. So thank you very much. Once again, we're very grateful. Palshikar Saab, Vandana Ji, Anupam Sir, Ramanath Sir, and of course Meher, who left. We're very grateful. I'm also very thankful to my colleague Chitrakshi, who works behind the scene to put this together. Is starting from designing posters to, I think, seeing that everyone is looked after. So thank you, Chitrakshi, as well. So thank you very much, Anupam Saab. You're very far away in America. I know you're very busy, that you put out so much time to kind of, think about this, I think provide direction and guidance, and wrote down the roles and processes. Thank you very much. Very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.